Okay, we want to do a short video on factoring. So I want to do a little bit of an overview with this chart here. First of all, we want to look at our trinomial usually, but whatever we have, whatever problem we have to factor, whatever polynomial, and factor out a greatest common factor. If it's 2x squared plus 4x plus 6, we can factor out a 2. That would be 2 would be the greatest common factor. So that's what that means. Then we look and determine the number of terms. So if we have a 3 terms, a trinomial, 3 terms or 4 terms, we can factor by grouping. So that's first on the left. Then looking over to the right, if we have 2 terms, a binomial, we have squares or cubes. We might have the difference of 2 squares, which we feel pretty comfortable with, hopefully by now. If we have 2 perfect squares and they are subtracted, we can follow this formula. A minus b times a plus c. If it's a squared plus minus b squared. Now, if we have a squared plus b squared, it is not factorable, only if it's subtraction. The difference of 2 cubes or the sum of 2 cubes are both factorable following this formula. So here we have an overview of factoring. Now, having said that, we're going to go to the 3 terms trinomial and focus on that. First of all, we're going to take a trinomial that has a equals 1. Okay, so we're going to go through the steps and do that. Now, looking at problem number 1, we have a equals 1, b equals 2, and c equals negative 15. So we have our trinomial. We identify a, b, and c. So looking through the steps, we multiply the a value and the c value to find the product of ac. So in our case, ac equals negative 15. Now we have to identify the b value. In this case, b equals 2. So choose b1 and b2 that will multiply to ac, multiply factors of ac, and add to b. So we talked about on our calculator how we can do that. Let's review. Go to your calculator, and if we can't just think of how that will work, we can always say we've got AC, negative 15 divided by x, AC over x plus x. This is a little formula that will work. Go to the table. Look for b. In our case, b is 2, so we go down and find 2. This is 2 in the y2 column. And we have the factors then are positive 5 and negative 3. So, positive 5 and negative 3 multiply to negative 15, but add to b. So, having found, looking at our directions, found b1 and b2, we substitute them for the original b. So let's move that up and let's substitute. We have x2 plus, instead of 2x, 5x minus 3x minus 15. And it doesn't matter what order you write them in, whether you write negative 3x and positive 2, rewrite the original, pair up the terms, and factor by grouping. We're factoring, taking out the greatest common x, which is the greatest common factor. What am I left with? X plus 5. Taking out meaning divide it out. What can I factor out of these two, this group? Negative 3, negative 3. I take out a negative 3, divide it out. What's left? X plus 5. I know I am right because these binomials are the same. Now, let's put a new step up here. Pair up the terms, factor by grouping. The next step is going to be factor out the common binomial. The common binomial. Binomial that's common to both. So I'm going to take out the x plus 5, divide it out. What is left? Well, that would be x minus 3. So x minus 3. Now I have my two factors. I have factored this. Now I'm going to solve it. If I set x plus 5 equal to 0 and x minus 3 equal to 0, what are my roots, my zeros, my intercepts? Well, I just set them equal to 0 and solve. And what do I get? X equals, those cancel, negative 5. That's one root. And add 3 to both sides. What do I get? X equals positive 3. And now what does that mean for me? Well, that means that I have a parabola that has roots at negative 5, x equals negative 5, and x equals positive 3. And that parabola will be facing upward because a is positive, facing upward, and those roots. Okay? There we go. Now, so that's one example. You've got steps. Let's go through the steps. Multiply the a by the c value to produce AC. Identify the sum b. Find your factors. You can either do it with on your calculator, y1 equals AC over x, y2 equals AC over x plus x. So you can either do it on your calculator or you can just solve that by yourself. And then if you want to do it on your calculator, you look at the table, look to the y.
Miss Blessing, please call the office. Miss Blessing, please call the office.
You look to the y2 column and you look for b. So that's part of choosing your b1 and b2. Rewrite the original, factor by grouping. Once you've, moving back up here. Once you've found your factors, you set them equal to 0 and you solve. Factor and solve. Okay? I'd like, for homework, you are going to solve the next three problems. X squared plus 17x plus 72, x squared minus 4x minus 21, and x squared plus 13x plus 36. Go ahead and factor them. Now, you can pause the video and finish those. We're going to do another problem together. Factoring a quadratic where a doesn't equal 1. So we'll do problem number 3 here. So we're going to follow the exact same steps. We're going to do problem number 3. You'll do the other 3 for homework. So we have A, B, and C. So let's identify those. A equals 8. B equals negative 10. C equals positive 3. We're going to identify A times C, which equals 24. Now, if I want to do this on my calculator to find B1 and B2, I know that B is negative 10. I want to replace that. If I want to find B1 and B2, let's do it on our calculator. Okay, we're going to go to Y equals, we're going to put in AC. AC is 24, so we're going to say 24 divided by X. And this one, clear it out, 24 divided by X plus X. Okay, now we're going to go to the table. We're going to look for B. B is negative 10. We're looking for that in Y2. Sometimes you have to go over to the X column to go up and down. We're looking for negative 10. It's very important. Our sign that gives us factors of negative 4 and negative 6. If you multiply those together, they could become positive 24. Add them together, they're negative 10. Okay, so we have B1, negative 4, B2, negative 6. Let's replace this, our factor. So we have 8x squared minus 4x minus 6x plus 3. So let's factor by grouping. divide the polynomial in half. What's the greatest common factor? Well, I can take out a 4 and an x, a 4 and an x, so I take it out. What's left? Well, a 2 and an x minus 1. Then I look at the next grouping, and I say, what can I take out of both? Well, I can take out a minus 2. Notice that on the left it's always a term with an x, and on the right it's always going to be just a number. Oh, it's not minus 2, it's minus 3. Can't take out a 2 out of that. Excuse me. Minus 3. I can take out a minus 3. So if I take out a negative 3, what do I have left? This becomes a 2 and an x is left, and this is a minus 1. Positive 3 divided by negative 3. So how do I know I'm right? Well, I know I'm right because these two binomials are the same. So then I factor out the common binomial, meaning I divide it out. 2x minus 1 divided by 2x minus 1. So when I divide that out, meaning take it out, what's left? Well, 4x minus 3. So those are my two factors. So now I have factored. I have my factors. Well, I need to solve. What do I do to solve? Set them equal to 0. Okay? So 2x minus 1 equals 0. 2x equals 1. X equals 1/2. 4x minus 3 equals 0. 4x equals 3. X equals 3/4. So those are my roots, my zeros, my intercepts. Those are all names of the same thing. And what that means is that I have a graph. I know it's facing upward because A is positive. Wow, this is a very skinny graph. And what this means is between 0 and 1, at 1/2 and 3/4 are where this parabola hits the x-axis. So that's what those roots are telling me. Okay, taking this example, please go ahead and complete 1, 2, and 4 for class. Okay.